Welcome to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex. Today we're going to be taking a look at SIGNALIS on the Nintendo Switch, an old school horror styled experience. It's definitely been hyped up for some time, but can it deliver now on its promises? Well, that's what I'm here to find out, so hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and let's get started. If you are grabbing SIGNALIS or anything else from the eShop, then consider using cornershop.gg for discounted eShop credit. You'll be getting 10% off at checkout using the code CORNER, and that's going to be instant delivery via email. Story then, and we'll be taking on the role of Elster, a technician Replika on the hunt for a missing person, while along the way uncovering the secrets of this facility and our dreams. It is a relatively standard sci-fi horror setup with a particular love for psychological elements, and that is basically exemplified in the opening. We awake alone from cryostasis in what is a destroyed vessel. Now we enter this facility and things they've gone from bad to worse, as it's overrun by androids that have taken a turn for the worse, and by worse I mean murder machines. What follows is not only though this hunt for your friend, but learning about this character and location, whether that's flashbacks or simply notes scattered around the environment. It can get a little convoluted at moments, but overall I felt it was incredibly well realised. They've set out to tell a story that asks some deeper questions, and yeah, I think it absolutely succeeds in that sense rather than following a paint-by-numbers formula. It also packs multiple endings for continuation, and those they are definitely worth uncovering. The only real complaint I guess for story is it's not actually scary, rather I'd call it horror themed, outside of a few moments of tension, and that's typically going to be in moments when ammo is running low. Gameplay then, and it's a throwback to old school horror. Think a tank control horror where bullets truly are limited and survival really is the name of the game. Tank controls though in this one, they are here but they are completely optional. They are also not the preset for the game. My first suggestion for this one though, it wouldn't be to fight but rather run as frequently as you can, because really bullet conservation, it's gonna put you in a better place, and I definitely learned that the hard way within a couple of early game deaths thanks to what I would consider now rookie errors. The gameplay mix, so it's that combat, exploration, resource gathering, in this case a whole host of keys, and then corridor after corridor to explore, each with multiple rooms and more than a few locked entryways. It's also got a rather sizable focus on puzzles as well to progress the game, which caught me off guard. I did not expect that, but they are creative and they can be quite challenging at points as well. An early example that I really enjoyed, it was balancing water meters. It's just not a simple game of guessing the solution either, rather you'll need to do some exploration, find notes in the world with instructions around these different devices. Controls though, they do keep simple. We get an isometric perspective, we of course can walk and sprint, we can aim, shoot, we can use a secondary melee weapon such as a stun baton of sorts, and we can interact. We also then alongside this have quick access to a map, we can access an inventory system, and we have a radio system as well. It unlocks early into the experience, it becomes absolutely essential. We also have moments when we do switch over to first person as well. I'd say a huge proportion of these are covering flashback moments, but these they forgo the combat in favour of exploration and of course delivering on that narrative. If I had any complaints about the core control and menu systems here, it would be in first person, the turn movement way too slow, almost floaty in its feeling. I wish I could speed it up in the options. And then the inventory, it is just tiny. You see around this world there's these red crates and TVs to save progress and store items, and there was a few occasions, more than a few in fact, where the back and forth was frequent because I just had too many items on my person. Enemies then are frequent and they continue to reanimate after a window of time or specific actions the player can make. That said though, there are ways to bypass this, but for spoilers' sake, I won't reveal what that is. They are slow though, very in keeping with a zombie experience, but don't let that deceive you. They are smart, they often cornered me. This can often be thanks to the environment as well. The design is expertly crafted, claustrophobic spaces, lots of different ways for you to get trapped and cornered before you know it. The game's preset then is also no auto reload function. You can add it in the options should you choose to, but for me this was what made it survival and built upon the tension perfectly, so I'd strongly suggest you leave that function turned off. When you do down an enemy then, you could stomp on them, you could even simply run past them, though they will eventually potentially at least get back up. By the midway point of the game, as I said with my mistakes earlier in the video, I chose to simply bypass them entirely. I had nothing to gain from taking out these enemies that posed no real threat. The gameplay loop though, explore the multi-floored facility, hunt down a whole host of keys to progress further into it, and yes, it's simple, but it's been so well implemented with some truly unique location design and that fantastic use of first person. While I did also mention as well, and many of these moments are flashbacks, it will use them as well for puzzles. The only other area that didn't work all that well in my opinion, that was the boss encounters. I'd describe them as simplistic but a little almost awkward as well. The combat's decent enough, but I'd never describe it as the core gameplay, so it feels a little out of place to rely on it in these moments so heavily. It was particularly frustrating when you had no clue it was coming and your inventory had been purpose built without ammo. That was very much the character build I was going for. I was going for the run as quickly as possible, get to the solution you need. This is minor though, and these sequences few and far between. For me, the horror survival, it's top quality, and the blend of elements, it's been executed to a great level. The balance in a first person isometric as well really paid off for me in the sense actually seeing this world through the character's eyes. It added a level of immersion I did not expect. Graphically then, it's unique. You've got that isometric viewpoint as well as first person, all with 360 degree movement. Alongside that though, it is old school in the sense it's quite a heavy use of pixelation, and the character models, they often skip out on the details. You could also though argue the latter, that is for narrative effect, but I really like the overall implementation. The game, it's just always clear with its layouts and colours to represent accessible areas, but it still uses a dark image to mask your enemies. Animations then are particularly nice. Our lead, when injured, will begin to stumble. That's going to signify a health pack is required. There's no health bar, anything of that like in this game. You're going to be reacting when you see your character bleeding out. Also, the enemies are particularly grotesque, and that's reinforced with cutscenes that have this almost anime edge to move things forward. It's worth adding as well, it looks great in handheld. That is actually where I spent the majority of my time. Audio finally, and given the theme, it's largely atmospheric in design. Look, sure, there's sound effects here in the foreground and gunfire ringing out, but where it truly succeeds, it's in the sense this facility is very much a living, breathing place, from rumblings to enemies that stumble closer and closer. Mix that together then with a soundtrack that builds the tension and that sense of, I guess, almost otherworldly, and yeah, this is absolutely a winner. The only thing I wish they had in fact included from an audio perspective, voice acting. The narrative is fantastic as I said, and this, it really would have been the last piece to really push it above and beyond. SIGNALIS then is a hit in my eyes. I always like the look of it, but now that it's here, it not only brings an interesting sci-fi horror experience to the table, but it's reinforced with some great gameplay and an intriguing storyline. It's not all perfect, as I said, boss encounters kinda weak, could do without them. The inventory restrictions, they seem a little too aggressive honestly, and then the first person moments, speed-wise, I wish I could dial it up, but those, they are minor issues in what is one of the better sci-fi horror experiences I've played personally in a long time. An amazing 9 out of 10 from me today then. There's a few issues as I said, but they do little to hold it back, and any genre fans, they should absolutely be taking a look. Will you be adding SIGNALIS to the library then, or holding onto that cache? Let me know in the comments down below. With that then, hit subscribe, but join us here for reviews and deals daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.